Welcome back. This is the Jerid
Hello.
and Brian podcast. Hope
I'm
everyone's. I'm Jerid.
What's going on?
Boom. Hope everyone is doing well. Hope you enjoyed the first episode. And what I did is I posted on Instagram some topics that you guys would like to hear us talk about. So in this episode, we want to go over some of these topics. Surprise, surprise. The majority of them are conspiracy theories.
All of them.
All of them
They
are
were.
conspiracy.
All of them
Well,
yeah.
yes, they all
of
are.
them.
There's
That's
like
cool.
there is some people that want to know my political views, but I would debate that that's also a conspiracy.
Is it? I mean, whatever.
Who knows? It depends on if I'm telling you the truth or not. So let's start with the Epstein suicide. So we talked about this briefly before we started filming, and it comes to my understanding that you don't know much about it, or it's not something that you really looked into, right?
I just don't care about it. But I did hear. I mean, I know the deal. I'm aware of what's going on, but you told me there's more to it. So
there's more.
Let me get the rest of the deets.
So there's more to it, and this is actually. Let me make sure we give credit to the person. This is Gwen Kelly, 71, not 72 or 73. I've seen them too, but this is Gwen Kelly, 71. The Epstein suicide. So this is for you. And what it is Jeffrey Epstein is this world-renowned businessman. What business? I don't know. But the topic...
Wasn't that also a thing? Is what? How did he get his money? And now his brother too. I did read something about that. How did they get their money?
All of a sudden, you got all this information. Who's his brother?
I had some.
Who's that?
I was holding out. Bro.
Okay, I'm with you. So as far as the Jeffrey Epstein situation, he's this world-renowned businessman. Not a lot of people even really know what he does. But I've been hearing about it for years, where there's this guy who has this island, and he takes famous people, politicians, all these people over there, and they have underage encounters. You know what I'm saying?
That was the politest way you could have put it.
Pedophile type business.
Pretty dark shit.
It's very dark. And what he does is he records and videotapes these encounters as a way to blackmail them. Right. So I was listening to, I forgot exactly who it was, but they were talking that he had a $70 million house in New York, and no one really knows how he got it. But evidently, it was the owner of Victoria's Secret, who he was the power of attorney for this property, and he signed it into his own name. So a lot of people are speculating that this guy was blackmailed, and that's how he got a $70 million house. And if that's the case, then I'm guessing this island that he had could have been similar.
Sure.
Right?
Makes sense to me.
So one of the people that keeps coming up in conversations regarding the Jeffrey Epstein case is Bill Clinton. You know who Bill Clinton is?
Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton, you know him. Not George Clinton.
I love George Clinton.
That's a whole another episode.
Dude, I'm actually going to go into it real quick because that's what these are for. So
these are for, and I got to wipe my sweat.
I fucking love George Clinton, like a big fan. I finally got to go to a show. Had way too many, dude. His songs, each song is like 20 minutes. Like he just freestyle jams. I saw him with Fishbone, who was also badass. Had way too many drinks before they started, and as they were going, I only got 2 songs deep. I had to sit down, player.
That was it.
That was it. I tried,
but those 2 songs were the equivalent of albums.
It was a lot.
Right?
Yeah, it was great. I had a great time, and then I had to go home.
I don't want to
burn myself.
Divert too much away from Jeff.
We're going back.
Epstein and the pedophilia.
That was it.
I have a question.
You got to put a little sugar in such a
info
dark
bay,
topic.
Like a salt bay for info. You know what I mean? Info bay. That could have been a name. Info bays.
What is this?
Salt. I'm sprinkling salt, dog. I'm gonna sprinkle some knowledge on the mic. So, as far as George Clinton. I just said almost at Washington. As far as George Clinton goes, let me just ask you a quick question. When you buy his CDs, are the songs 20 minutes?
No.
They're like, what, 5 minutes?
They can be very long. It's like a James Brown thing. It varies, but they can go long. It's just jams.
So when you go see them live,
not all jams, but
when you go see them live, is it disappointing to not hear the song as it is on the CD?
No, it's like blues. I dig blues. And the thing is it's never going to be that. Like the record is the one time, and then there's going to be other experiences. But it was badass. I hope to see him again, but I heard he's on his last tour, so that'll be the end of it. We'll get back to what you were saying, but George Clinton's badass. Because
I know there's like a different group of people that are diehard music fans. I feel like these are the types of people that enjoy a George Clinton concert. And then I feel like there's a subsect of people that would hate it. Like if they went to like Justin Bieber concert,
the exact song,
and Justin Bieber went off on a 30-minute baby riff.
You can't do the baby riff for 30 minutes, but
George Clinton could.
You could rock Flashlight for a while, and it's still a good groove. That's
Is that a Justin Bieber song?
no, that's a George Clinton song.
Okay, I'm not overly familiar.
That's
It's
cool,
okay
man.
though. I just know he got funny colored hair. He's been in a few commercials recently that I've seen, and I like it.
He's in a commercial.
Maybe
I feel like he made that up.
I'm making
We're
stuff up.
moving
It's a
forward.
conspiracy.
We're moving.
Not only is this about
was well
conspiracies,
played.
we're making conspiracies. So the conspiracy is George Clinton's in a new commercial I've seen. Maybe I haven't seen it.
Maybe not.
So Jeffrey Epstein, Bill Clinton, supposedly, because he would keep track of every time someone visited this island, went on a private jet with Jeffrey Epstein 26 times to this island.
That's a lot of times.
And a photo actually came out recently of Bill Clinton laying in a lounge chair wearing a blue dress. Supposedly the Monica Lewinsky blue dress. And
You saw this picture?
I saw a picture that was represented as
Anything
this
could
picture.
be doctored, though. But that's interesting.
Anything could be doctored. So, but who knows, right? I mean, with that being said, then nothing is real at this point, right? Everything is just doctored, potentially.
Yeah, potentially.
Potentially. I'm going to go with it was real.
Why not?
Why not? And so there's other people like Bill Gates, evidently, was a visitor of this island. And if you look back, Bill Gates, evidently his house was raided and they found shitloads of child pornography, allegedly. I don't know. And like a little time after that, one of his employees took the rap for him and went to jail for a long time for child pornography. So Bill Gates evidently is one of the people that's involved in this. You have the Clintons that are involved in this. You have people. I mean, I saw a list. I don't want to just put a bunch of people on blast, but like if we're looking at the list that people are spreading, then I mean, you got Donald Trump is one of them. But Donald Trump is a weird case because people are almost using this as a way to say Donald Trump is a better guy than all these other politicians because evidently he denounced Jeffrey Epstein for liking underage girls and like kicked them off of his golf club, out of his golf course. Come to find out, I think it was more financial. Like he wasn't paying for the membership, and he didn't have any.
That's what I had read.
You know, something like that,
I
right?
read something like that.
So I mean, they're pulling a lot of people into this, but all the details aside, the part of it that's interesting to me is, like I said, I've been hearing about this Epstein stuff forever, about this island, and I didn't even know his name. I just knew there was some island that people took, high power people went to and slept with underage girls and boys, and they had all these crazy code words when they communicated. Like, for instance, like Hillary Clinton, there's all these emails and stuff going on where she would talk about how she wants to come over for dinner and have a side of macaroni and cheese with her pizza, but like macaroni and cheese meant 13-year-old boy and like pizza meant a girl under the age of 10.
So Hillary or Bill were sending these?
Both of them, the Clintons, everybody. I mean, if you look at the list, there's all kinds of politicians.
So people with power, when they wanted to roll
lot of
by,
people
they would
with power.
ask for pizza with macaroni, just for the example.
Yeah, they would basically like, here's the menu I want in the kitchen that night.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So there was a bunch of stuff came out like that. So I had known of these details, and I heard people talking about it, and everyone was just saying this is crazy, no way, so forth and so on. But recently, the fact that he committed suicide, you know what I'm saying, has a lot of people talking because he just got arrested for child pornography. He was obviously going to go to court. And what's the best way for people to get out of sentences? Snitching, bro. And snitches get stitches. But when you're snitching on politics, what happens? You get killed.
You tell me, man.
You get killed, bro. Have you ever snitched on a politician?
No.
Proof, because you're still here. If you had, I couldn't ask you that question. So the whole theory is that since Jeff Epstein is now dead, they can't have a case. So the suicide wasn't really a suicide. Evidently, for 3 hours, the camera in his cell malfunctioned because he's the high profile.
Is that part of what happened? I didn't read that bit. That the camera
malfunctioned because according to experts, it takes between 30 to 45 minutes to successfully hang yourself and die from it.
Well, I had read that the guard. I had read that the guard was overworked. 5 hours on overtime, like 12-hour, 16-hour shifts or something like that.
And that hits you hard, right? You could relate to that, man. You're a hardworking guy too that wants a nap. It's just some shit to appeal to people. Like I'm
just saying what I read. I'm not too invested either way.
I know, but I'm saying in the conversation investment wise, you get what I'm getting at though,
totally.
Right?
Yeah, totally.
So it's like, yeah, that's relatable, man. I'm a hard worker too, and I could fall asleep, and that could happen. But there's cameras.
I see what you're saying.
There's cameras in the cell, and for 3 hours there was a malfunction. Kind of
every or just his cell.
His cell is the one in question. I don't know if all of them were out, but I mean that one specifically was out.
Sure.
And then like more details come out. that he had a cellmate, some big old like ex-cop that was 50 years old, that's buff as fuck, that's like super ripped. So the idea is maybe that he killed him for all these people. Do you know what I'm saying? Like they put this guy in his cell just to kill him, and that's why the cameras didn't work. Another thing is, so first off, it takes like 30 to 45 minutes to successfully kill yourself by hanging, with the preparation and the actual asphyxiation part of it. Another side is when they took the pictures of him going out of the jail cell, his face was in perfect, like it didn't look discolored or anything. When you hang yourself, there's a lot of mutation, I guess they would say, to your face and to your body. So the pictures of him on the gurney leaving the jail was like a perfect conditioned person.
Okay.
And if that was the case. So with all that being said, I'm not going to say you're overly engaged in what I'm saying, but you're hearing me. And I'm curious.
Listening. That was the point. I'm listening for now.
And I'm curious, what are your thoughts? And I know you don't care, but that's okay. Well, you could think beyond the caring aspect of it. Do you think, A, potentially this guy had an island that he was taking a bunch of people to and videotaping them with underage girls and boys? Do you think that's plausible?
Sure, it's very plausible. It's very. I mean, the potential is endless, especially if, I mean, where are they getting all this? Where they get the dress of Bill and Bill Clinton? The picture with him in the dress.
He kept logs of all these people.
But who found that?
That's the hard part. Does it matter who found that? If it's real. If it's real, because whoever
it matters, because I'm curious.
Well, whoever actually,
I mean,
I would imagine.
Did they find anything else? Who was the source?
I would imagine if I had that picture and I made it public, I wouldn't want people to know that it was me that put that picture out. Sure. Why would I have that?
Well, I guess what I'm saying, was it a dude or was it like an organization? Like, is it the people who raided his island?
Yeah. So
just for that one point of evidence, but I would ask that with all the points of evidence. Again, keeping I'm right.
Do you think though there's anything to years and years and years of people talking about this? And he was even arrested in 2003 on child pornography and child abuse, sexual abuse, sure, whatever, and had a super light sentence. And anyone who really went against him and talked about him, I mean, shit happened to. I can't tell you specifics, but there definitely are people that have been harassed greatly. There was a journalist that got harassed endlessly because she wouldn't stop writing about him. And I don't know. So when I put these facts together, people have been talking about it for years. Do you think that holds any weight?
Totally.
Why would people for years?
To me, it just sounds like a creepy dude who had a lot of money and power. And when you have money and power, you can do basically pretty much what you want, especially if you own your own island. So it's a lot, man. It adds up to a lot. But I don't know.
Does it make you feel differently at all, or does it make you think about the government or politics or all these people?
No, I don't. I think the government is also controlled by powerful people, so it's the same thing. And if this guy yielded that much power, it would be the same thing as if you're saying the Clintons were involved with it. Or not you, but if that's the conspiracy, the Clintons were also involved. These are also very powerful people that, to some degree, based on your influence is more powerful than the government.
Yeah, I mean,
it depends. I mean, if you have that much of it, and if you have enough people with that much of it, law doesn't seem to really be as important. So that sizes into what you're saying, or what the theory is.
And what they're saying is, have you heard of the cabal?
What's that?
The cabal, according to Google, which who knows what Google knows? You know what I'm saying? Google knows everything. A cabal is a small group of people united in some close design, usually to promote their private views of or interest in an ideology, state, or other community, often by intrigue and usually unbeknownst to those around their group. So that's another thing. They're saying that the people in the cabal that basically run the world, like the Bill Clinton, the Bill Gates, like these are the people that had him offed. And these are all the people that he was working with, and as far as like bringing them to his island. So that's kind of where it's at. So I guess the scary part is to think that the people that are trying to control the world are a bunch of pedophiles.
Is it even smaller than like the Bilderberg group? Is it like at all relatable with that?
What is that? I don't know what the Bilderberg group is.
It's the same deal. It's a bunch of rich, important, like the world leaders, financially, not necessarily politically. They gather and they call themselves the Bilderberg group. I think it started because they were
like
at the hotel.
Build-A-Bear?
That's funny. I made this joke with the same joke with somebody else like a month ago. But anyway, no.
Great minds think alike.
You know what I mean? But no, it's a similar thing where it's a group of powerful people that group.
You're talking about Alex Jones, right? He
No.
like infiltrated. Yeah, I think so. He like videotaped.
Well, I've seen
shit.
stuff like that where like, you know, they were doing some satanic shit, or there was a giant burning owl or some shit like that on some ranch in California. I don't fucking know. But yeah, that's I think a little bit separate, relatable, but separate from the Bilderberg group, which is a little more tight knit. I believe it's been a while since I've looked into any of that stuff, but I think that's similar to what you were just talking about with the cabal. Is that what it is?
Yeah, and I think like the reason I'm saying all this is I feel like the Epstein suicide, the case around it, in this day and age, we talked on the last podcast about how information is just abundant and it's all over the place. Now people are looking more into it, and it's making people more awake to the fact that we're controlled by people, or the government has, I don't know, not even the government, but the cabal. It's having a lot more people talking about people like the Rothschilds, the cabal, the Bilderbergs, whatever the hell that is. And do you think that's a positive or a negative thing?
Always a positive. If people are talking, I think that's a good thing. We may be disagreeing, or we may not understand the issues completely, but as long as they're on the table, it can be absorbed more or learned about more than leaving it under the table.
I agree. So that's kind of what I want to talk about. That I just like it. I don't like it necessarily, but the part about the Epstein story that interests me is people have been talking about it for years. It was almost like, who cares, or I don't believe it. And the fact that he suicided himself, I just think it's brought a lot of attention to things that people should have always been looking into that they haven't, because it's easier to get caught up in life and not think about, people getting raped on islands. Do you know what I'm saying?
Super dark subject matter.
It's super dark.
The thing is, though, usually when people
you have to bring the dark to the light, though.
When people are on top, and they get caught up, they usually have to offer a head. You know, and this guy got caught up the most. So if there's a bunch of powerful people, they're basically like, you know, a pirate mindset. They're going to have to put someone down, and they have to offer a head on a plate. And if he was already getting caught up, I guess it would make sense to just have him all the way be caught up to shut him up. I could see that.
I agree. And I hope more people look deeper into it. I myself feel like he was off. I don't think he committed suicide. At the end of the day, it doesn't make any sense that the cameras didn't work. This cellmate that he had, this random ex-cop. Now you're telling me that like the guy fell asleep on the job. Like, you're telling me that your most important high-profile person ever, you put a tired-ass dude on the case. Probably not going to happen. So that's one thing that people want us to talk about.
Also, when you have a lot of things, when it's not just one thing, if it was just the camera, if it was just this or that, or maybe one or two things, but if you start to have a surmisable amount of things, then it becomes an issue. And just like I was saying in the other thing, everybody should be asking questions. And if you have enough stuff, you should start asking questions. So it makes sense.
Do you have any questions?
I'm listening.
Okay.
Which is more important.
There you go. I mean, what would a question being asked be if somebody wasn't listening to it?
I guess it depends on what the subject matter is.
If a tree falls in the forest and nobody sees, does the tree fall?
I was taking a piss in Texas, okay? And there was a sign over the urinal that says, if a man is alone in the woods, is he still wrong? I always thought that was funny.
In what regard is he right or wrong, though?
Because the guy's always
alone
wrong
in the woods.
It was a funny joke. Because the guy's always wrong.
Oh, gotcha. Okay,
we could edit that.
So they were just going off of the whole tree in the woods and putting a guy in the woods. I like it. It's kind of like you could be right or you could be happy.
I was taking a piss. It was years ago. It was funny.
You could be right or you could be happy. You know what I'm saying? So another thing. So on back onto this Instagram post. There's somebody by the name of It's Baby with 2 Y's, Kate. It's Baby Kate. I don't know the actual age of this person, if they are a baby or not, but they're very interested in Area 51. What are your thoughts on Area 51? Do you not care? Just honestly.
That's my standard. I think the thing is...
Care or not care with Jerid and Brian.
Okay, well, the thing is with Area 51, obviously blown out of proportion at a certain point, but with reason behind it. I do think that any country is going to have a place where they need to build shit, and it needs to be secretive. The whole thing with the aliens, I think that just gets interjected because it's such a secretive place. I think that they are working on secret stuff, and I do actually think that some of the conspiracy theories, like what? Okay, like with the alien thing or whatever.
Well,
I think that they're just.
don't be too specific now. The alien thing or whatever. What do you mean? The Roswell, where the alien crashed in 1947. They said it was a weather balloon.
Yeah, that's separate too. The thing is,
There's another alien thing.
I was saying that's separate from the Area 51 thing, because that was also wishy-washy when it came out. They said it was this. They said it wasn't this. They said it was that. Just look that up. They thought that it was a thing, and then it changed to be another thing, and the government said it was something else. And the final story that we have is the balloon. But that's I don't have it all, so I don't want to say it if I'm wrong. But look that up.
You're telling me you're not the leading authority for information around this incident? We're all just speculating.
Exactly. Or maybe.
Although,
maybe.
I talked to the person who's the lead authority, and they told me what the truth is.
What is it?
You want to know the truth?
Sure.
All right. I really didn't. There's really nobody, but there's a lady.
That was a bullshit way to get in.
Open the door, you know what I'm saying? Get my foot in the door.
It was very wishy-washy, just like Hitler's death. They said that it wasn't him, that the guy who was killed had a similar mustache, and they even have photos of this. And you put them next to each other, Hitler and this dude who was dead, and it ended up being the wrong guy. And then they went around the corner to where supposedly his bunker was, and they found 2 skeletal remains. They couldn't decide if they were even male or female, but since there was 2, and they figured it was Hitler and his woman. But even at the time, it was highly regarded that wasn't him. And there was a whole lot. I looked that up again because I'm not well versed in that as I used to be. But there was a lot of questionable stuff. And just like we were saying with the other thing, you should ask questions if you have a surmisable amount of conflicting information. And there was a lot with that. Even the general public didn't think that he had been killed until it was finally just beat to death that he was, and so forth, because it made political sense for the states to look like champs. And then there's a ton of stuff about him going to Argentina still and all that, but that's a separate thing. But just like with anything, usually when it comes out, there's a mix of stories, and then eventually something that gets pummeled into your head enough after time and years go by, and people aren't the same people that were around when it happened. They just kind of go with whatever the census was on it, or the status quo of that subject.
History is taught by the victors.
Exactly. I always thought that was beautiful.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, the whole Argentina thing is really interesting to me, because if you go to Argentina, which I have not been, I guess there's like communities of nothing but Germans. Shitloads of German people.
We should actually have a whole podcast on it. It's a very interesting topic about that situation, and just a lot of live accounts of people who say they used to work in these hotels or these mansions where he used to be, and other high-leading people from that regime or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. And also, Argentina is, I believe, one of the closest countries to Antarctica, which is where they evidently have all kinds of secret bases.
Yeah, I
read nobody, stuff like that, and like no citizen, because of a treaty that was signed, is able to go to Antarctica by themselves. They have to be like accompanied, and they can only go a certain distance.
Which is interesting. The whole
that got a lot of people on the flat Earth too. Like when I did a video on the flat Earth, I did a little documentary, so forth and so on. Whenever I brought up the fact that no one could go to Antarctica, and Antarctica supposedly is the ice wall around us, that was always like, oh, I got to look more into that. You know what I'm saying? So
it's very interesting.
It's very interesting. It's one of those easy things to throw out there that gets people intrigued. And so going back to the Area 51, so this is what I believe. You said you think the government uses it for all of this advanced technology that we can't know about.
Right. I do.
That makes sense to me.
I do think that considering that you integrate the idea of let's say foreign technology, and then you bring it in, that would be a place that you would have it. So if you have something extraterrestrial and there's technology, just like you would do if we had a foreign powers plane or technology that they have, you would bring it there and learn about it, dissect it. I think you would do the same thing if there was an extraterrestrial ship or something that you wanted to learn more about. That would be the place. And I do think that does happen.
I think it's also smart. You know what I mean? Because, like, let's say, I don't know, do you want your government to be a little bit ahead of you when it comes to your protection? Or do you want everybody knowing everything about what they're doing? I think it might be smart, because if everybody in the world knew about all the top secret government weapons, then they're not really that good at weapons anymore, because you could only defend against things you're aware of.
Sure.
So when it comes to, like, I think if I worked at a job and the whole point was infiltrating, or the whole point was protection, I would think, okay, I don't mind if the owners know something I don't, that maybe I'll find out on a need to know basis. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
putting in that relations with the country, I do see why the country would need a place where nobody knows about it, because guess what? We all talk, we put stuff on the internet. Who knows who's a Russian spy? That was a big worry back in the day, right? Russian, the KGB and all that. So it makes sense. So as far as them having a place, because they say the government is always like 20 years ahead of us with technology. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
They
I would say even more advanced.
even more.
I mean, if you look at some of the videos from Area 51 from the 50s and like Edwards Air Force Base is really more closer into like the technical thing now. I think Edwards Air Force Base is used more than Area 51 for what I was talking about, like the progression. I could be wrong though, but the progression of um, I don't know, aviation type technologies. But shit, I lost it.
when it
You were saying
comes
something.
when it comes to the Roswell, no, when it comes to the Roswell thing, let me just throw this out there. What I heard happened is this: the Germans are masters of propaganda. I mean, German engineering is renowned as like some of the best engineering in the world. And the Germans wanted to start some propaganda about a fake alien invasion that was potentially going to happen in the world to globalize everything. Because me and you, if there's a threat that doesn't necessarily threaten you, but it threatens me, this doesn't unite us to work with each other to fight off this threat. Aliens would make everybody under threat. So in order to create realization of aliens, Germans did this thing where they took mentally challenged kids. They performed surgeries on them to make their eyes really big, to make their heads even bigger, to make their hands and their feet look different. And what they did is they put two of these kids in a drone, right? In like a little saucer type drone that they manufactured, and they magnetized and put it underneath a larger drone, and they flew it over New Mexico, and they just dropped the bottom one, creating the crash. And what they found was not aliens; it was two mentally challenged people that they had performed surgeries on to look more like aliens.
Jesus,
starting propaganda.
that's pretty dark.
Pretty crazy stuff.
I hadn't heard that one.
It's pretty crazy. And because when you think about it, okay, I'm an alien. I mean, I'm smart enough to bend gravity to travel wherever I want to in the universe, but I crash in New Mexico. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't seem very. Were these like little aliens that were learning how to fly? It never made sense to me that aliens that were able to get out of their planet's orbit or whatever and get into our galaxy crashed.
Well, I think that could be a miscommunication then, or a misunderstanding. I think that if there's a mothership and it's leaving this planet, it doesn't mean it's just leaving this planet and coming straight to Earth. It could have been in a position where their planet was fucked, and they left like thousands of years ago, and they've just been living in space in like one of those fucking things that they show like in a documentary on Earth of what we would do if we had to bounce and we had to stay in space. And let's say they've just been living in space and they can control their ships out there and then go back to the mothership or whatever. And when they get here, they crash because they're not. I don't know why they crashed. They could have been high. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they just came from a planet to Earth to fucking crash.
Because wherever they were at, cannabis was recreationally legal thousands of years ago.
They were on top of it.
Right? So, that's going to do it. On that note, that's going to do it for this podcast. We touched on a couple of the topics that people wanted to hear about. We talked about the Epstein thing. We talked about Area 51. Any closing notes?
Keep asking questions.
Keep asking
questions. Keep asking the questions, because that's how we learn. That's how we have these discussions. You guys should be having them too.
Gotcha. Well, hey, we do appreciate you guys joining us for this episode where we talked about a couple conspiracies. Leave some comments. We can go deeper into them in the future. But as for now, I'm Jerid.
I'm Brian, and we'll see you next time on the Jerid and Brian Show.
Peace.